ਨਾ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਕਿੰਦੀ ਸੰਧੂ ਆ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ ਹੁਣ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਕਰਨਾ ਜੈਰਾਡ ਕੋਇਨ ਦਾ ਉਹ ਯੂਨਾਈਟਿਡ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਦੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਨਰਲ ਸੈਕਟਰੀ ਤਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਮੇਰੇ ਰਾਤ ਨਾ ਸਾਥ ਹੈਗੇ ਕਿਰਨ ਤਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਈ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਦੱਸਣ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੁਣ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਜੈਰਾਡ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸੂਗੀ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ 'ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਰਨ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ 'ਚ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਤਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗੀ ਹਾਂ okay. So Gerard, I just wanted to give all of the listeners and viewers today a bit of a background about yourself. So you've been a union member for over 30 years, I understand, and you worked as an officer for 28 of those years. And so your union background is all about supporting people in factories and foundries in the industrial sector. The regional secretary you've been for 16 years until 2017 when you had to leave the union. So and also politically you've been a councillor in Birmingham with a portfolio responsibility for economic development. So thank you and welcome today. So it seems that the union is in your blood really. So can we start by asking you why you want to be General Secretary of Unite the Union?
Thanks very much, first of all, for the opportunity to speak to you today. And for me, it's because Unite needs real change. It is an organisation that has to place itself in the world of work as it is now. For many of our members, they don't feel currently that the union is focused on protecting their jobs and making sure that they get good pay and good working conditions. And of course, as we emerge out of the pandemic, that is going to be even more important to our members, that they feel they have the support of their union there when they need it most.
Thank you.
हाँ जी इत्थे मैं दसना चाਹੁੰਦੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੈਰਾਡ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਮੋਸਟਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚੰਗੀ ਪੇ ਆ ਉਸ ਕੰਡੀਸ਼ਨਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਤੇ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖੀਏ ਉਹ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਜੋ ਕੰਮ ਦੇ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ এনवायरमेंट ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਕਾਫੀ ਚੰਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਲਈ ਜੈਰਾਡ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਦਲਾਵ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣ ਲਈ ਸੋ ਤਾਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੀ ਪੇ ਮਿਲੇ ਤੇ ਨਾਲੇ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਚੰਗਾ এনवायरमेंट ਹੋਵੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਲੋਕੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ
Thank you. So that's really your focus then for the union then. So you talk a lot in the campaign in the election campaign about being less involved in, you use the phrase Westminster politics, but what that really means is taking for the union to be less involved in the Labour Party. So what does that mean for people in their factories and offices etc. as with respect to Unite the Union?
It's not so much about being less involved in the Labour Party, it's more about trying to run the Labour Party and guide the leadership. My view is that a trade union should focus on the day job of representing its members and supporting them and providing a great service rather than obsessing about who is the leadership of the Labour Party. It's really important that we continue to have a good relationship with Labour, but when Unite is a growing organisation with more members and offering a great service, then any political party would engage with it because we will be the voice of the world of work as it is in the 21st century, and any political party will want to talk to a successful trade union that is growing its membership.
हाँ जी सो इतने मैं दसना चाहती कि जैराड ने यह कहा जे आप गल करिए लेबर पार्टी की उन्होंने यही कहना है कि सानू उन्होंने फोकस करना चाहिए लीडरशिप ते नहीं उन्होंने फोकस करना चाहिए ते उन्होंने फोकस करना चाहिए एक चंगा रिलेशनशिप होना चाहिए सारिਆਂ ਦਾ आपस ਵਿੱਚ सो यही कहना चाहते कि लेबर पार्टी ਨੂੰ लीडरशिप बारे इन्ना obsess नहीं करना चाहिए पर उन्होंने फोकस करना चाहिए कि एक चंगा रिलेशनशिप होना चाहिए सारिਆਂ ਦੇ आपस ਵਿੱਚ.
Thank you. So with that, Gerard, then we're in, the great studios of KTV in the heart of Sandwell, and it has a long history of South Asian communities, working really hard in foundries, factories, and union activism, working in being reps, etc., in unions. So, and you know that for us, it's harder for us to get a job. It's harder for us to make the career progression. And when we do get jobs, they tend to be low paid, etc. So what do you feel, what can you bring as a General Secretary that is going to help people like myself and Kieran and others watching today?
Well, I'm from this very community in which we're filming today. I grew up in West Bromwich in what I consider to be a great example of a multicultural town. And my growth in terms of the trade union involvement in that has taught me that actually there is discrimination still going on despite the legislation. There is racism in the workplace as well. And also there is more support required for our women workers and women members in terms of the support the union provides. So I want to empower our equality reps that the union has and try and get them the legal footing to be challenging these issues with their employer. That currently isn't there. I also believe that we should have more engagement with employers around the equalities agenda. So I am committed as part of my campaign to make sure that when I become General Secretary, we will roll out equality audits that don't just focus on pay, but focus on glass ceilings and focus on the issues that are important around making sure that people of all backgrounds have an opportunity to progress in an organisation.
Yeah. So ਇੱਥੇ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੈਰਾਡ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਵੈਸਟ ਬ੍ਰੋਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋਏ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਵੈਸਟ ਬ੍ਰੋਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਟਾਈਪਸ ਦੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਬੈਕਗ੍ਰਾਉਂਡਸ ਤੋਂ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਾਫੀ ਵਰਕ ਪਲੇਸਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਿਸਕ੍ਰਿਮੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਜੋ ਇਕੁਆਲਿਟੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਰੇ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਟਰੀਟ ਹੋਣ ਪਰ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਬਦਲਾਵ ਆਵੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਾਣੇ ਇਕੁਅਲੀ ਟਰੀਟ ਹੋਣ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਮਰਦ ਹੋਣ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਵੂਮਨ ਹੋਣ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਟਰੀਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ
Thank you. So how do you see yourself as being different to the other candidates? We have Sharon Graham and we have Steve Turner. So what are you bringing that is different to them?
First of all, I'm very much focused with the mainstream of political life. Steve Turner is supported by the Communist Party, Sharon Graham by another party, the Socialist Worker Party, and I have also made it clear that I think it's really important that we deliver value for money for our members. They work very hard to pay their union subs, and in recent years with spending on a luxury hotel and conference centre in Birmingham costing nearly £100 million and other pet projects that have happened inside the union, I don't think it has been given value for money. So for me, the focus will be very much on making sure that our union members' subs are spent wisely and we remember how hard our members work to fund those subs that allow the union to exist.
Yeah. So ਇੱਥੇ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਕਿ ਜੈਰਾਡ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਮੇਨ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਸਬਸ ਜੋ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜੋ ਚੂਜ਼ ਹੋਊਗੇ ਉਹ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਵਾਈਜ਼ਲੀ ਚੂਜ਼ ਹੋਣ ਤੇ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੋੜਾ ਪੈਸਾ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪੈਸਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਇੱਧਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਸਹੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਤੇ ਵਰਤਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਸਬਸ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਈਜ਼ਲੀ ਚੂਜ਼ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਮਤਲਬ ਆ ਕਿ ਸੋਚ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਲੈਕਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ
Thank you. So you've said that to spend the subs wisely, and in your manifesto you've talked about training and qualifications, and particularly for many members, for example in my family and others who experience English, don't speak English as a barrier, don't speak it fluently. So within those training and skills, is there room for particularly those of us who don't speak English? Is that what you're also looking to include as well?
I'm really committed to investing in training and the skills of our members, and I have workplace reps who support them, and I'm committed in my manifesto to £10 million set aside to set up a new Unite Skills team. Part of that money will also help replace the government money that has been taken out by the Union Learning Fund. And through the Union Learn Fund, we were already doing great work around English as a second language and making sure that that support was there to workers and to our members to ensure that they could access ESOL training. That's really important for me that that work continues. It's why I've set the £10 million aside and why I want to see a much more focused effort on skills and training provided by the union, because through that we can help our members grow in the workplace and give them the opportunity to have a voice and feel more confident and stronger in dealing with their employer and also their colleagues around them.
ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਜੈਰਡ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਲ ਇਹ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੋਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਓਗੇ। ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ £10 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਈਡ ਤੇ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਆ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਸਕਿੱਲ ਸੈਟਸ ਜੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ ਕਿਸੇ ਜੌਬ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਇਹ ਫੈਸਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਹੋਣੀਆਂ ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਐਕਸੈਸ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ।
Yeah. Thank you. So I wanted to also ask you about how you're going to support women members in particularly, and I'm thinking of particular workplace that I know of in Coventry, and how all the women have two jobs. They start at 6 o'clock, they finish at 3, then they go to another job, and how they're finding that their terms and conditions are being cut all the time. The bonus is cut now, the hours are cut, that kind of thing. So what if you do, hopefully if you do become General Secretary, what will you do specifically for women, particularly women who face those sorts of issues and other issues in the workplace?
Well, I've listened to our workplace reps right across the union, and I'm thinking particularly in this instance of our reps at Ellis Laundry in Coventry, where they told me that the union doesn't provide them with the support that they need when they're facing up to an employer who is attacking their conditions, and that sometimes it is on the big workplaces like Jaguar Land Rover rather than those workplaces that are more ethnically diverse, such as Ellis Laundry. And so absolutely my focus will be about supporting those workplace reps. But we also have to recruit more members from South Asian community. We have to recruit more women members, because the balance at the moment doesn't reflect how the world of work is. Within Unite it's now 70% men, 30% women. The world of work is 50-50, and if we are to grow and to respond to the needs of women workers and to provide that support, then we have to recruit more of them. And then the union has to reflect that in the number of full-time officials and the employees that we have that are more diverse and more reflective of that community and of a more equal gender balance.
ਸੋ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਜੈਰਡ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਫੀ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਸਹਿਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਆ ਵਰਕ ਇਨਵਾਇਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਕਰੂਟ ਵੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਜਿੱਥੇ ਘੱਟ ਔਰਤ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਾਥ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੌਬ ਓਪਰਚੁਨਿਟੀਜ਼ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੋੜੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ।
Thank you. You've talked a lot about this, I think it was 100 million you said, about the hotel and the cost of the hotel. From an ordinary union member's point of view, might be a good thing. So why is the focus on, because one of your pledges is to do an independent review of the hotel. So for the viewers today, can you explain why you think that's a really important priority for you?
Well, nearly every single member will have contributed almost £100 each to the Hotel and Conference Centre in Birmingham. Originally it was going to be costed at £7 million, and then it went to 35 million, and then up to £98 million. So with that level of overrun of costs, I think it's only right that our members understand how that happened. and learn the lessons from it. I also think it's important that we have a separate system for accounting on finance, so audit committee and registers of gifts and benefits. So there's a whole host of things that I want to bring that make sure that the union's finances are sharpened and more focused, because it is workers' money that we're spending here, and they work hard to pay their contributions, and they should get and expect value for money for those contributions.
ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਕਿ ਜਾਣ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਬਹੁਤੇ ਪੈਸੇ ਇੱਕ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਮੰਥਲੀ ਉਹ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਉਹ ਪੈਸੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਈਜ਼ਲੀ ਖਰਚਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੈਸਾ ਹਾਰਡ ਅਰਨਡ ਮਨੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਸਿੱਟੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਆਡਿਟ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਬਣਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਪੈਸੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਕੰਮ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਈਜ਼ਲੀ ਖਰਚਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਸੋ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਤੇ ਲੋੜ ਆ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟਸ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਬੋਨਸ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਪੈਸਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੋਚ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਖਰਚਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ।
So I just wanted to ask you a question that some people may feel is not a union question, but as South Asian people, we are part of the diaspora. We have connections to the other side of the world, whether that's relatives or whether that's responsibility for commerce or whatever, or even in terms of our identity. So in your view as General Secretary, how do you see the issues around human rights that affect us? So we've recently had the farmers' protest, which I understand that there's a demonstration on Sunday. So how do you respond to that, and how would you respond to that as General Secretary?
Our union and the trade union movement in general has a proud history of standing up for workers' rights and human rights right across the globe. I think it's really important that we recognise that in, for example, as you say, the farmers' protests, that there are really concerning human rights issues there that should be raised from government to government, but also from the trade union movement in the UK to the trade union movement in India, expressing solidarity and support for those protests and the aims that they have. It's a good illustration actually of what a union is about. It's about showing that when you come together collectively and you have an issue, a grievance, that you then support each other to make sure that you get a positive result. So I'm very much supportive of making sure that the union continues in that fine tradition of celebrating and supporting human rights issues across the world.
ਇੱਥੇ ਯਾਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹਿਊਮਨ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਆ ਜੋ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਆ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਥ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਤੱਕ ਕਮਿਊਨੀਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਇਸ ਹਿਊਮਨ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਬਾਰੇ, ਉੱਥੋਂ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਟੂ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਇਹ ਕਮਿਊਨੀਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਕੰਸਰਨਸ ਆ ਹਿਊਮਨ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਕਿ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਆ ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਫਰਜ਼ ਬਣਦਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਹਿਊਮਨ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਣਾ। ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹ ਐਮਪਲੋਇਰ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਲਈ ਖੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਹਿਊਮਨ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਲਈ ਖੜਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ।
Thank you. So we're 18 months into COVID pandemic, and I know that in your campaign you talked a lot about speaking to many different members of the union. So what have members been telling you about their experience of COVID and the pandemic, and what can you do? What would you do about that if you became General Secretary?
I've actually had to go through the experience of a virtual tour rather than a real tour. So I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of workplace reps that represent in excess of 100,000 Unite members. And the experience of that means that they have fed back to me the changes in their workplaces. Particularly, say, for example, in the banking sector, where many people worked in large buildings in city centres, but now have spent 18 months working from home. And that's led to some real issues around mental health and mental health support that they think the union could do more on, provide support to our reps around that. But it has also led to changed ways of work-life balance. Some of them positive, some of them more difficult to grapple with. And for me, those changes aren't going to go away. There is going to be hybrid working the other side of this pandemic, and we have to respond as a union to make sure we protect the terms, the conditions that people enjoy, and make sure that they're not forced into working arrangements that focus too much on long hours and working 7 days a week. We've got to protect what we've got.
ਜੈਰਡ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਕਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਘੰਟੇ ਲਾਉਣੇ ਪੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਕਰੋਨਾ ਵਾਇਰਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ EMPLOYEES ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੈਲ ਬੀਇੰਗ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਉਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਇੰਨਾ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ
So you mentioned mental health, and we know that mental health is particularly of concerning to young people. So how would you go about, I guess, bringing the union to the forefront of people's lives? That, you know, the union is an important institution. The union is an institution that, you know, protects people's livelihoods. So how would you, as General Secretary, support bringing in new members, particularly young members?
I think it's really important that we reach out to young people where young people are at and provide them with a sort of service and backup that is at their fingertips, quite literally at their fingertips. In this day and age, most young people won't engage with something if you don't have a very good app or you don't have a social media presence or content on that. So I think we've just got to up our game in relation to that, and we've got to have a service that's tailored to their needs and available 24/7 when they need it.
So ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ 24/7 ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਾਥ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਤੇ alongside that I just want to say you've got 4 minutes left.
I know.
Thank
you. One final question. You've become General Secretary. It's your first day in the job. What are you going to do?
Well, it's going to be a busy first month because there are a number of formal conferences that are just in place anyway. But for me, the first day in the job will be about focusing on the priorities I've committed to in my manifesto and making sure that I deliver the change I've committed to. I'm very, very passionate about the platform I've stood on. I think it's the right way to structure our union for the future. We'll reach out to more women members, more young members, and more members of an ethnically diverse background. So that's going to be my priority in the first work day, the first week, and the first 100 days of activity, because I'm committed to making sure I deliver the real change that I've talked about in my manifesto.
ਇੱਥੇ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਣਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਨਰਲ ਸੈਕਟਰੀ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕੀ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਾਇੋਰਟੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਆਪਣੇ ਮੈਨੀਫੈਸਟੋ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਵਰਕ ਨਾਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਇਹ ਫਰਸਟ ਪ੍ਰਾਇੋਰਟੀ ਇਹ ਹੋਗੀ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਤੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਆ ਇਹ ਲਾਗੂ ਹੋਣ ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ
Thank you, Karen. And we look forward to having you back and asking you exactly what you've done when you become General Secretary, or if you do become General Secretary. So thank you so much today for taking the time to speak to us, Gerard. We really appreciate it. And thanks to KTV, and thanks to Karen, who spent a lot of time.
Thank you guys for coming.
Supporting us, and all the work that's gone behind the scenes to make this happen today. We really appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you to you for